We're living in an age full of contradictions. Americans are working harder and earning more than ever before, yet they worry every time gas prices, housing costs, or health insurance go up just a little. We talk about financial freedom, but many of us are trapped in credit card debt and haunted by the fear of never having enough. Jeff Bernier calls this the generation exhausted from trying to be safe. Because the more we try to control everything with money, the more we lose the sense of control over ourselves. He tells the story of a man, a 45-year-old engineer in Texas, making over $200,000 a year, yet still waking up at night wondering, what will happen to my family if I lose my job? He had money, a plan, and clear goals, just not peace of mind. And it's from stories like this that Jeff Bernier wrote The Money and Meaning Journey, a book not about where to invest your money, but what you're investing your life in. In a world filled with uncertainty, what we truly need isn't just a financial strategy, but clarity about what money really means in our lives. Because if you don't know why you're earning money, then no matter how much you make, it will never feel like enough. Part 1. When you have money, but no direction. Jeff Bernier opens his first chapter with a question that sounds simple, yet leaves hundreds of his clients sitting in silence. If tomorrow you had enough money to never work again, what would you do with the rest of your life? No one answers right away, because most of us spend our entire lives trying to make money, but very few ever stop to ask how we truly want to live. Bernier calls this the paradox of modern success. We climb every rung of the financial ladder, only to realize the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall. He says that many Americans come to him completely worn out. They're not poor, they're just lost. A 52-year-old sales executive he once advised put it this way: "I spent 30 years working for freedom, and now that I have it, I don't know what to do with it." That's the paradox of America today, a place where people can buy almost everything except a sense of meaning. Bernier writes, "We live in a society that measures success by wealth, but rarely asks whether that success makes us any happier." He doesn't say money is bad. On the contrary, he believes money is one of the most powerful tools for expressing what truly matters to us. But the problem is, if we don't know what those values are, money only makes the emptiness inside us feel wider. He compares it to driving an expensive car as fast as you can without knowing where you're going. The faster you go, the further you drift from yourself. Look around. The average American works more than 1,800 hours a year and still feels tired, anxious, and trapped in what Bernier calls the success loop. Many earn good incomes but live out scripts that aren't their own, working to pay for a house that's too big, keeping up a lifestyle they believe will make them happy, only to discover that happiness isn't there. And when there's no clear purpose, money becomes the only thing left to chase. Bernier calls this the confusion between means and ends. He writes, "When we treat money as the ultimate goal, we turn it into a measure of self-worth, and no measure could be more unforgiving." In his book, Bernier explains that the first step to finding direction is not setting more financial goals, but pausing to discover what makes life feel meaningful. He often asks his clients to write down 3 things: the values they could never compromise, the experiences that make them feel truly alive, and what they want to be remembered for when they're gone. It sounds philosophical, but that clarity helps them redefine the role of money in their lives. One man, once obsessed with investing, said after a session, "I realized I don't actually need more money. I just need more peace." And that, Bernier says, is where every real journey begins. When you stop to find direction, you begin to find yourself. Part 2. The 3 levels of wealth: money, meaning, and joy. Jeff Bernier says, true wealth isn't found in the numbers on your account, but in the feeling that you're living true to who you are. After more than 30 years as a financial advisor, He discovered that most people stop at the first level of wealth, money. Very few reach the second, meaning, and only a rare few ever experience the final one, joy. Bernier calls this framework the 3 levels of wealth. It sounds simple, yet it's transformed how he's helped thousands of Americans rethink their relationship with money. Level 1, money, the means. This is where most of us begin. Money provides safety, freedom of choice, and a sense of control over our lives. No one denies its importance. But Bernier emphasizes, if you stop at this level, you'll always live in a state of not enough. He shares the story of David, a 38-year-old tech professional in San Francisco. High income, solid investments, yet constantly afraid of losing it all. David had money, but not a sense of inner security. Bernier puts it plainly, when your safety depends on a number, you'll never truly feel safe. That's why he encourages people to move to the second level. Level 2, meaning the purpose. This is where money starts serving you instead of the other way around. At this level, every financial decision must answer one question: does this help me live according to my values? A couple in Georgia, longtime clients of Bernier, are a perfect example. They sold part of their stock portfolio and used the proceeds to create a scholarship fund for environmental students, a cause they had cared about for over 20 years. They didn't become wealthier, but for the first time, they said, "It feels like our money is doing something good for the world." Bernier believes that when money aligns with your values, it stops being a number and becomes energy, and that energy brings peace. The second level is where people discover purpose, something no return on investment can ever buy. Level 3, joy, the fulfillment. This is the highest level, where you are no longer ruled by money, but live with a sense of inner freedom. Bernier tells the story of Martha, a 60-year-old widow from Colorado. After years of saving and investing, she could retire comfortably, and yet something still felt missing. Through their work together, she realized that what brought her happiness wasn't her account balance, but her mornings spent teaching immigrant children for free, and the quiet joy of giving. Bernier calls this meaningful joy, a state where life feels not just sustainable, but worth living. Joy isn't found in accumulation, it's found in alignment, when what you do, what you believe, and how you use your money are all in harmony. From money to joy, a journey for the patient. Bernier reminds us, anyone can reach level 1 through hard work, but levels 2 and 3 require awareness, a deeper kind of consciousness. It begins by asking yourself, what am I really earning money for? What makes me feel truly enough? And if I had it all, what would I want to create for the world? Because, as Bernier says, you can't buy joy, but you can use money to live a meaningful life, and that meaning is what gives birth to joy. These are the 3 levels of wealth. The first one sustains you, the second gives you purpose, and the third makes you grateful to wake up every morning. Part 3. The confusion between value and price. Jeff Bernier once wrote, "We live in a world where people know the price of everything, yet understand the true value of almost nothing." He wasn't talking about the stock market. He was talking about how people define happiness. Price. What's visible, measurable, and easy to show off. In America, a person's worth is often tied to numbers: income, home value, car price, stock portfolio, or even the number of likes on social media. We're taught how to measure everything, but never taught how to feel what truly matters. Bernier tells the story of Tom in Miami, once proud of his $1 million home and dream life. One afternoon, his daughter asked, "Dad, why are you always busy even though we already have enough?" Tom didn't know how to answer. He could tell her the price of their house, the cost of his car, but not the value of his time with her. Bernier calls this the most dangerous confusion of the successful. Because when we blur the line between price and value, we begin to measure our own lives by numbers that can be bought. Value, what you'll never see on a financial statement. Bernier believes that real value doesn't live in your wallet. It lives in the things money can't replace: your health, relationships, faith, inner freedom, and sense of purpose. He recalls a conversation with an old friend, John, a retired Air Force pilot who'd spent his youth flying around the world. When John retired, he told Bernier something he would never forget. "I used to think money gave me control over life. Now I realize the most precious thing is feeling like money doesn't control me." Bernier writes, "Money is a tool, not a teacher. It can fund your dreams, but it can't tell you which dream is worth chasing." It's a simple idea, but it marks the line between living with direction and living in the cycle of consumption. The economy of insecurity. We live in an age where every advertisement whispers the same message: you're not enough. Not beautiful enough, not rich enough, not successful enough. And the only way to feel enough is to buy something else. Bernier calls this the economy of insecurity. It pushes us to chase everything that shines on the outside while forgetting the quiet values that sustain us on the inside. When someone spends 40 years climbing the career ladder but forgets why they started in the first place, the problem isn't money, it's how we measure life. The lists that bring clarity. Bernier often asks his clients to write down 2 lists: the things in their life that are high in price but low in value, and the things that are high in value but impossible to buy. One woman wrote, "My new car, $80,000. It made me happy for 2 weeks. Sunday dinners with my parents, free, but they bring me peace for the whole week." Bernier believes, when you understand what truly has value, your money starts working for you, instead of ruling you. And perhaps that's the real sign of wealth. Not the balance in your account, but the moment you realize you don't need to buy anything more to feel enough. Part 4. From Fear to Financial Confidence. Jeff Bernier believes that most of us aren't afraid of being poor. We're afraid of losing control, afraid that everything we've built could disappear overnight, that one mistake, one crisis, or one market crash could send us back to where we started. That fear, he says, is the most common illness in modern America, a wealthy nation that somehow lives in a constant state of insecurity. We check our bank accounts every morning, read the market news every night, and still can't sleep peacefully, even when our finances are more stable than 90% of the population. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, Bernier met countless clients, people with millions in their retirement funds, panicking as if the world had ended. They hadn't lost everything, but they had lost something far more important: trust. One man, Mark, a 50-year-old engineer, told him, "I've done everything right, saved, invested, diversified, but I still feel scared. I still don't feel safe." Bernier replied, "Because you think security comes from numbers, but in truth, it comes from clarity." Clarity, the quiet strength. Clarity, it's the word Bernier returns to again and again throughout the book. Clarity about what you can control, clarity about what you truly need, and clarity about why you're doing it. He explains that when people lack a solid belief system around money, they get swept up by emotion, greedy when markets rise, fearful when they fall. Without clarity, money becomes a psychological game, and in that game, no one truly wins. Through thousands of conversations, Bernier discovered something simple but profound. Financial confidence doesn't come from how much you have, it comes from understanding deeply enough that you no longer feel afraid. Rewriting the financial story. He shares the story of Emily, a single mother in North Carolina who fell into despair after her divorce, convinced she would never have enough to raise 2 kids. Bernier didn't start with an investment plan. He started by helping her rewrite her financial story. Together, they redefined her spending, realigned her priorities with her true values, and slowly built a sense of control, not over the markets, but over her own decisions. A year later, Emily told him, "I'm still earning the same amount of money, but I sleep better now, because I know I'm the one driving my life, not my money." Bernier calls this the freedom of awareness. It's not freedom because you have more than enough, it's freedom because you're no longer ruled by fear of losing it. He writes, "Fear is loud, clarity is quiet. Fear screams for attention, clarity simply knows." And that quiet clarity is the foundation of true financial confidence. It's not arrogance, the feeling of having everything. It's serenity, the peace that comes from knowing what truly matters. The real meaning of confidence, many people believe financial confidence means having the perfect investment plan. But Bernier says confidence doesn't come from being right, it comes from knowing you'll be okay even when you're wrong. And perhaps that's the ultimate destination of the journey between money and meaning. When people stop letting fear dictate their choices and start living with peace, not with the numbers in their accounts. Because in the end, as Bernier writes in this chapter, money doesn't give you peace of mind. It gives you the means to find it. Money can't bring peace. It only gives you the tools to discover that peace within yourself.
Part 5. When clarity matters more than advice. Jeff Bernier once said, "Nothing confuses people more than having too much advice." We live in an age where with just one click on YouTube or TikTok, you'll find hundreds of people telling you where to invest, how to save, and what to do to achieve financial freedom before 40. Yet paradoxically, we've never felt more lost. Bernier argues that the problem isn't a lack of information, it's that we're not clear enough to know which information actually fits us. He tells the story of Lisa, a 43-year-old marketing executive from Chicago, who spent thousands of dollars on financial seminars, read dozens of books, and still had no idea what to do next. She told Bernier, "I've received so much advice, but none of it feels right." Bernier smiled and asked her, "What makes you feel most at peace when you think about your future?" Lisa went silent for a long time. Bernier writes that this silence captures the greatest barrier of the modern age. We seek advice from the outside before finding clarity from within. And he insists, no one can give you the right advice until you know what truly matters to you. The trap of financial ambiguity. Over more than 30 years as a financial advisor, Bernier has met thousands of Americans, not because they didn't know how to invest, but because they didn't know why they were investing in the first place. One client said he wanted to invest for freedom, yet couldn't define what freedom meant. Another said she wanted to feel secure, but couldn't explain how much security meant or for whom. Bernier calls this financial ambiguity, the fog that makes people easy to influence, anxious, and reactive. He doesn't dismiss the value of advice. He simply reminds us that all advice is meaningless if it doesn't begin with clarity, because advice is just a tool. Clarity is the compass. The question that changed everything. Bernier often shares the story of Jim, one of his longtime clients, a 55-year-old entrepreneur obsessed with maximizing returns. Until one day, Bernier asked him a single question. "Jim, what do you want your money to serve?" After a pause, Jim said quietly, "I want enough time to take my wife traveling before she's too weak to fly." And just like that, everything became clear. Jim didn't need more investment advice. He needed a life decision. Bernier writes, "Clarity transforms advice into wisdom." When we have clarity, every financial decision, whether investing, spending, or saving, becomes a reflection of our values. Without it, we're just chasing formulas someone else created. The paradox of too much advice. And here lies the paradox. The more advice we chase, the further we drift from our own inner voice. Bernier believes that true financial confidence doesn't begin with numbers. It begins with understanding. Because once you know what truly matters, you no longer need to ask anyone how to live. He ends this chapter with a line many readers never forget. Advice is borrowed. Clarity is owned. Advice is something you borrow. Clarity is something you own. And perhaps in a world overflowing with financial experts, what people most need to rediscover isn't another answer, but the stillness to finally hear themselves.
Part 6. Money as a Vehicle for Inner Freedom. Jeff Bernier once said, "Financial freedom doesn't mean you can buy anything you want. It means you're no longer ruled by fear." In the modern world, most of us believe freedom comes when we have enough money to stop worrying. But after hundreds of conversations with people who've reached every imaginable level of wealth, Bernier realized something deeper. Fear doesn't disappear when your bank account grows. It merely changes its shape. The rich fear losing money. The powerful fear losing status. The successful fear not being enough. And, as Bernier wrote, if you need money to feel at peace, that peace will never be real. The illusion of freedom. He tells the story of David, an entrepreneur in Atlanta who owned 3 companies, a yacht, and a vacation home in Florida. On paper, David embodied financial freedom. Yet, when he met Bernier, he confessed, "I've never felt at ease. I'm afraid that if I stop, everything will fall apart." That's when Bernier asked him, "Maybe it's time to ask yourself, what is your money really serving?" Bernier calls this the root question of inner freedom, because money, in its purest form, is only a tool for choice. It doesn't grant freedom, it reveals whether you're enslaved by fear, comparison, or purpose. In his book, he writes, "Money is a mirror. It reflects who you are, not who you wish to be." When people lack inner freedom, they use money to fill their emptiness. When they possess it, they use money to create value, connection, and true joy. Freedom through enough. Bernier emphasizes that freedom isn't about how much you have, but about knowing what is enough. He tells the story of an elderly couple, the Thompsons, longtime clients of his. They weren't wealthy by society standards, but they were crystal clear about what mattered: a small lakeside home, morning coffee together, and a yearly donation to a local scholarship fund. Bernier said that every time he visited them, he could feel wealth in the air, a quiet abundance no check could ever buy. He wrote, "They had something money couldn't buy: clarity, gratitude, and peace." Master or servant? Bernier doesn't dismiss the importance of money. He simply reminds us that money is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. When you control it, it expands your choices. When it controls you, it locks you inside a gilded cage. He quotes the philosopher Henry Thoreau, "A man is rich in proportion to the number of things he can afford to let alone." To Bernier, inner freedom is the ultimate destination of the financial journey, the place where you stop chasing numbers and start living with presence, gratitude, and calm. Because in the end, wealth isn't about having more. It's about needing less. And once you understand that, you're not just someone with money, you're someone who's truly free. When you close the money and meaning journey, you don't just understand money better, you understand yourself better. Jeff Bernier reminds us that money is never the goal. It's simply a tool to help us live more fully, more freely, and more peacefully. Because in the end, what we're truly searching for isn't a number in our bank account, but a sense of meaning in the life we live every day. If you've ever felt exhausted chasing money yet still empty inside, this book will help you rediscover clarity and the quiet joy hidden within your own financial journey.
Check out The Money and Meaning Journey by Jeff Bernier. I've left the link in the description below. Who knows? Maybe this journey is the map that leads you back to true wealth.